Hello everyone, welcome back for another episode of 10-Minute Drawing Techniques. This is episode 15 on drawing philosophy with your host, Mark Chong. And also, if you want, you can visit our website at 10minutedrawing.blogspot.com in order to view all of the other episodes. So this episode on drawing philosophy covers basically what goes through my head as I draw. This is sort of an explanation of my mental process as I draw the figure, or I draw, a background or that kind of thing. So this is probably going to be the first episode where I don't do much drawing. That's because when you're drawing, the actual act of being able to see me move my pen and make these marks on paper, this is like 2%. This is probably about 2% of the whole process. If even that. I'm being conservative. Most of drawing actually goes on in my head, and surprisingly, a lot of the stuff is not necessarily done as a conscious effort. I'll explain. The thing about drawing is that it's when you're drawing, it's not like a photograph. A photograph is special in that when you take a picture, the entire image is the entire plane of the photograph is in perfect detail, or in focus, out of focus. But the thing is that it's possible to take a photograph in which case everything is in focus and you've got perfect detail. You can take a picture of a crowd of people and look through the entire crowd and see everyone's face in perfect detail, because the resolution of the photograph is capable of that. On the other hand, the human eye, the entire image that is captured by a human eye is very different from a photograph, in that the resolution in the center is very high. On your retina, the fovea, which is the name for the central region of your retina, has a high, dense cluster of photoreceptors. So it's capable of getting that kind of facial detail. It's capable of, you can read a book and you can actually make out the letters within this tiny little, it's like a few degree cone. You can make out all the letters within that tiny degree cone. And although all this other area around here, all this other region in your field of vision has has a density that's nowhere as high as what's in the fovea. So, but the thing is, when you read the book, you can still tell, even though you can only tell what the letters and words are saying in the center of this fovea as you pan it over the page. You know that there's words and other things in the outside. You just can't seem to make them out somehow. But you know sort of how they're arranged, and you can kind of see the gaps. What's going on is actually your mind is filling in the gaps. It's taking the small bits of information from this low resolution image that your eye is getting on the outskirts of your vision, and it's filling in the gaps. So we're constantly doing this. Surprisingly, I think a lot of our human vision is actually it's perceived by the mind. The mind is filling it in. It's filling in this information. So it's kind of an interesting thing. The other thing is, when you look at so this means that whenever I'm drawing, whenever I can only look at a few things at a given time. I can only actually make out, when I look at a subject, I can only make out a few details at a time. So this means that I can't just kind of scan from top to bottom, and drawing out the little bits that I understand. I have to pan my fovea over my focus. I have to focus on different parts of the human figure at all times, because when you're drawing, it's a form of what I like to call mental notation. When you draw the figure, when I draw the figure, I do my best to get the whole picture of everything. I need a sort of a basic structure to fit within. I need to know that somewhere within this basic structure there's going to be a person. And if I'm just trying to draw little eyelashes and nose and mouth and every little wrinkle in the skin, without creating this basic framework to lay everything on top of, it's going to be utter chaos. Things will seem kind of misshapen. They'll seem kind of wonky. And the reason why is because even though I can draw one eye properly in proportion and perspective to the next eye beside it, in context of the whole face, it might be totally out of whack. So when you draw, you'll find that there's a limited tool set that you're using. There's your knowledge of perspective. There's your knowledge of perspective, your knowledge of volume. There's the tools and techniques you can use to render form, to draw cylinders, to do these things. But at first you apply those techniques on a grand scale. You try and get the basic gesture. The basic gesture is the simplest. You're using the same tools at all times. I've just drawn, very simple, general forms. And then I'm just going over these, and I'm just bringing out the volumes. Okay, so no matter, even from the beginning to the end, I'm always using the same tools. I'm always using my knowledge of perspective, always carving out volumes, always looking at shapes. It's just that as the drawing progresses, once I have this basic framework, then I can work on the next level of detail, and I can start working on the smaller things, like trying to figure out, well, what is the structure of the knee, where are things pointed, that kind of thing. And I'm just working at a smaller level, and so it's just using the same techniques the whole time. There's actually not that many skills that you have to learn. You just have to understand the sequence at which you have to draw things. What should I draw next? What should I draw next? What should I draw next? So when I do this, I don't just say, well, I'm going to draw the eye, then I'll draw the nose, then I'll draw the mouth, and I don't force myself to draw the things I know. Instead, I have to say, in this blank spot, in this spot that hasn't been drawn yet, what can I look at that has already been drawn on the picture that's going to tell me, what's in this blank spot? So I can look at, this waistline. I can look at, this line here, which is going to say where the other leg joins, and I can look at how this leg is going in. If I need to draw the line over here, I look at all the other information, not just where I'm drawing. Because where I'm drawing, there's no information there. Until I put the line in, there's no information there. And I won't find my answers by staring at blank spaces. But I will find answers in lines that are already down, assuming that I've correctly drawn them. So that's why it's also important for you to be careful in how you draw, and why I say, in blank spaces, don't just hack a line out. Every time you draw a line, you have to draw it so that it is correct in relation to all the other lines that you've already placed on the image. And whenever you, and I don't mean, I don't mean that when you try to draw something, let me just see how much time I got. When you draw lines and try to make them correct, don't draw them so that they're correct to your subject that you see in real life. I mean, try to, but the most important thing is that your lines have to be correct in relation to whatever you've already drawn, especially when you're doing figure inventing, because you have no subject. It's got to be correct. Pay attention to what you're drawing, okay? So that's the other thing. And this is a series. Every marking that you put down on the page. So this is all mental notation. This is all sort of knowing. The thing is, every time you put a mark on the page, you're just trying to remember, well, this is where the shoulder is, this is where the hand is, this is where this bit of a line is, where that bit of a line is, and you're giving yourself the necessary bits of information so that your mind can fill in the gaps. So don't force your knowledge. Don't just force yourself to draw a hand because you know how to draw a hand, or know how to draw this, or know how to draw that. Draw the bits of information that are going to tell you, what's in the other blank spaces. Draw the things that your mind can bring forth. Anyway, out of time. Catch you guys later. Bye.